Well, What Have I Done is a format of interview where I talk with someone who has achieved a certain point in their career, a certain development. It's either cultural managers, artists, but in this case is a philosophy practitioner. And I invited you, Andrea Modesto, to tell us what have you done with your life. What have you been doing up to this point? And we'll take it chronologically from, let's say, your youth, your adolescence, your high school up to now. That's what have I done is referring to. To get this chronological evolution of your professional life as philosophy practitioner. So, do you remember your high school years, your youth?
Yes, I remember. I was in the scientific school, Liceo Scientifico, but I didn't like that much. It was really demanding and difficult. And I was swimming at that time, like every day, in a professional team.
Athlete.
Yes. Yeah. So it was really, like 3 hours per day swimming. Every holiday was like 2 training per day. So basically at one point I decided to change school. I thought humanities, science could be more interesting than scientific ones. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to study psychology, for example. Mm-hmm. And my brother was studying psychology at university. So I decided in the 3rd year to change school. And I went to Liceo delle Scienze Umane, so it's a humanities science high school. And I finished high school there, yeah.
So during that time, what did you notice? Why did you want to switch from scientific to humanity high school?
First of all, to find a easier school.
It was too hard,
yes.
Science.
Yes. So, yeah, I couldn't afford to study that hours, like maths and physics, because...
You couldn't afford?
No, because I didn't have time. I have to swim and doing that stuff. So I didn't have the same time of the other students, So
because you had this passion for body movement, for being an athlete.
Yeah, actually I wanted to quit, but I couldn't quit swimming because I don't know why. Sometimes it's more difficult to change than to go on with something that maybe you don't like anymore. There is a kind of inertia,
Right. So you were inert in that way, but you still made place for psychology. Why did you have an interest towards psychology?
I think because I had a kind of existential crisis during those years.
As a teenager?
I know it's normal, but I was wondering why I'm doing what I'm doing, basically. Yeah. Now you're asking what we have done.
Yes.
At that time, I was asking
what am I doing?
What am I doing? Yes. So I needed to understand a bit what meaning to give of my life. I felt a kind of emptiness. Mm-hmm. Because I was putting much effort to make so many stuff, but at the end I felt empty.
Oh, sports, science,
guitar.
Yeah.
So every day was full
activities.
Of activities. And at one point I wanted to say, okay, but what do I want to do?
So that was the spark of a philosophical inquiry.
Yes.
So and then the first thing you thought of is humanities and psychology. Huh?
Yes. In a way, I saw that in that field I could get some tools to understand better myself, to understand better why I was unsatisfied with myself.
Why did you think psychology would help you deal with this existential crisis?
Because I knew that psychology was a subject to explore the subject.
A subject, domain, to explore the subject.
Exactly, because my brother was studying
you said about
psychology. And so I had some books like Freud. And so I said, okay, maybe there is something there I can use for myself.
You made the link between your desperation, and I don't know what am I doing, and the domain of scientific...
what's the root of my pain, of my suffering, my existential emptiness.
So you switched high schools, and did you find something closer to your existential questions?
Yeah, I started studying psychology, even if I didn't have good teachers. I remember there was this teacher that entered the class, say hello everybody, and then he was giving the shoulders to everybody and started to writing on the board.
Shoulders? Meaning showing the back?
Yes.
Wow.
And started writing the lessons we were supposed to copy on our book. So that was the normal lesson of psychology. So I have been studying by myself, basically, psychology, and then I discovered philosophy because in Italy you start studying philosophy in the third year of high school. So basically I had this intuition that I could have got more by reading, by studying, by try to relate with these people that maybe they went through something similar.
The people who wrote the psychology books. And
No, even philosopher, or even poets. I don't know, like Giacomo Leopardi, or like Nietzsche, or like Schopenhauer, people like that. So in a way, I was trying to have a conversation with them by reading them and by using their ideas to deal with my problems.
So you're reflecting on what was written about the human condition.
Yes.
Through art, poetry, and psychology and philosophy.
Yeah, in a way they were dead, but they were more alive than the people around me.
Than the teacher who showed you your bank.
Yes, exactly.
Showed you his bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the starting point of my passion towards philosophy and psychology.
Because you never stopped growing it since then.
Yeah.
No? And then you say you graduated from high school.
Yes.
No? Like you normally do. What was the next step in education?
The next step was going to university. And my father let me to choose any university, which is not obvious for those time and that city where I come from. Yeah.
Oh, parents would impose universities on their children.
Yeah, because they won't provide a job, so...
Oh, just a second. Do you have a job right now?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So you chose your own education and you do have a job. So
yeah.
You proved...
I just had a discussion last year with my father and he told me, I think you made the right choice. I thought you wouldn't find a job with that choice, but so he recognized me
after 20 years.
Yes.
No? Okay,
so I started to go
college
to another city.
Yeah. What did you choose? What faculty did you choose?
Philosophy.
Philosophy from the start. Yeah.
Yes.
How many years did you study?
5 years.
5 years. But why didn't you choose psychology?
That was one of the options I had in mind before the choice. But I think it was a way to distinguish myself from my brother because he already studied psychological university. Plus, I think it was because I saw more potential in philosophy. When I read and studied authors like Nietzsche and Schopenhauer, I got more from them to apply in my life.
Let's say someone doesn't know why or doesn't believe you. What would you say for you was the more appealing to philosophy rather than psychology?
I will give you an example. Yeah, let's say Nietzsche. Yeah, for me Nietzsche was a great opportunity to get a paradigm shift in my life. Yeah, so for example, I was trying to get out from my pain, yeah, and maybe that's why I wanted to study to understand why I was in pain. And by studying Nietzsche, I got the idea that in a way, I don't have to refuse pain, but I have to accept the life in each single element that contains included pain. So for me, it was a paradigm shift.
From suffering from pain to accepting pain.
Exactly, yeah.
So that was an instance, an example in your life where you saw the application of a philosophical idea.
And paradoxically, the pain was reducing and I started to accept more the pain instead of escaping from it.
Or treating it.
Yeah. So I said to myself, wow, so if I work on my mind, if I change the way I see the world, I can change also what I feel. And then maybe I think where it comes from my passion for philosophical practice that I discovered later. Yeah.
Right. So the way of dealing with pain through philosophy and working on your mind is this seed of you reaching the current stage of philosophy practitioner now.
Yes.
So now we're going to look more at this preparation, what have you been doing, let's say in college. Did you find during university applications of philosophy in any way in continuation?
I was a bit disappointed with the university, especially at the beginning, because I went to university, like I said before, to find a meaning. Yeah, like it was for me a death or life issue that I wanted to face through philosophy. But for me, it was like to be in another high school with different subjects, just philosophy or history and stuff like that. So I saw students that were just preoccupied with the marks, grades, and exams and stuff. And I didn't give a shit about exam. I mean, I was doing exam, but for me it was like, how can I change myself? How can I change my life?
Oh, so you had an inner drive, inner question of changing yourself.
Yes.
So you saw the courses, theoretical, academic, hierarchical elements, and you said, no, this doesn't deal with what I want inside.
Yes. Maybe my expectations were a bit wrong, let's say. I was expecting more something like ancient philosophical school where people are there to change their life, yeah? But it was more like maybe Aristotle liceo, you know. People go there to study and then they go to have a drink.
During this time, probably you discovered or you studied more intensely Plato and, as you describe now, ancient life-changing meetings in the Agora or some encounter between Socrates and...
Yeah.
No? That's what you imagined?
Yeah. Plato, I studied Plato a bit, but, you know, it depends from the professor, because if the professor is more interested in some authors, he will give an entire course on that author. So in Padua, is a city where I went to study, was more about Hegel, Kant, a bit of Nietzsche as well. And Spinoza, for example, I never met a course about Spinoza. So Spinoza, I studied by myself when I start teaching, for example. Plato, yes, something about Plato as well. So yes,
But
I encountered
now,
different philosophies there.
I know you a bit. I know you love Plato and that you know everything about Plato.
Not everything. But I would say that my passion for Plato started with philosophical practice.
Oh, so only later when you discovered philosophical practice as a field,
Yes.
you started looking seriously into Plato.
Exactly.
Let's see, before that, what happened more? So you were disappointed in the university, you started being acquainted with some philosophers, others not so much. You probably wrote a thesis.
Yes.
Do you remember what your thesis was about?
The final one, you mean? Because, okay, yeah, it was about the process of thinking.
The process
basically.
of thinking.
Yeah, I was trying to show a bit what you are trying to show with this project. What have you
With
done?
this interview?
Yes, I was trying to show, but I don't think I succeed to do it. How and why some philosopher thinks in a way than others. So I was trying to show how the biography, for example, or the contextual elements influence the way of thinking of the philosophers.
Okay. Now I know what you mean, because in this interview style, I look at the personal life and the background and the evolution of the person I have in front of me, and not so much as just the profession in itself.
Yes.
I try to make links between the philosopher, his personal life, and to show how they are a practice together.
Yes.
So you tried,
Yes.
you had an attempt at philosophical practice before you discovered philosophical practice.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
You studied personal lives of philosophers and how that influences the thinking.
At least a few philosophers. I picked some philosopher like Plato, Aristotle, Sant'Agostino, and others. And I picked one topic that was suicide, and I tried to analyze this topic through the different philosophies and to the different to show the difference connected to the biography and the context.
About suicide.
Yes.
What they wrote about
So why
suicide.
Plato thinks that about suicide, while Sant'Agostino thinks differently? How, for example, the Christianity or how the concept of the society can influence the way you look at this phenomenon, for example.
Up to this point, at which time in your life were you considering suicide?
Maybe at the beginning of the university. So the final thesis was a bit of conclusion. It's a sublimation, let's say.
You like that question?
Yes. I never saw the link between the two stuff.
Between your consideration of
Yeah.
suicide and your thesis.
I mean, at the end, I was not considered anymore, you know? Maybe it's because I start thinking about it.
So when you consider suicide as an option, you don't think about it. Then you start thinking, hey, I think I like thinking.
In a way, you first experience and then you think, in a way, you know? You have the feeling before,
Yes.
and then you start, okay, why do I feel that?
And this is like a little example of a general principle that we use in philosophical practice. We look at experience and would then name it.
Yes.
And this process from going to experience to naming it is the thinking starting.
Yeah, for example, in workshop, happen often that you say, why are you unsatisfied? So in that moment, you invite the person to name and to explain what does it feel.
Yeah.
So
They might feel unsatisfied, but they don't know why.
Yeah.
So we ask why.
Yeah, exactly. So first there is the feeling, and then there is the exploring rationally the feeling. Yeah.
Like in university, disappointment, hard work, exploration, research,
Yeah.
thesis. I'm done.
Yeah.
Over. It's over. So you survived university.
I survived. Plus, I would say that I understood that my pain was a benefit I had. I could use my pain to understand, to explore, to think. So in a way, I started to look at my, problems from a different point of view. I was like, oh, I'm lucky that I'm experienced these strong feelings.
Yes.
Because they can drive me towards some research or exploration or discovers, for example, that I wouldn't make otherwise.
You don't see them just as inconveniences.
Yeah, exactly.
You're part of life. The problem or
I see the opportunity in bad experience.
Right. Right. Not to say, I hate this. It's dramatic. A dramatic reaction, but more stoic
Yes.
approach. Huh?
At one point, I start to think that the pain is the message that your body sent to you in order to start thinking.
Right. The signal.
Yes,
I
exactly.
have a saying, God is speaking to me through my gut health.
Okay. I'm not sure it's God in my case, but okay.
God.
Yes.
Higher force.
Yes.
It's a signal in my body, like even somatizing, that something should be, it's a signal, it's a red lead.
Like in psychoanalysis, by the way.
Like in psychoanalysis.
Yes. You start from the symptom and then you explore the mindset of the person.
Tell me, what have you done after graduating university?
I went back home first because I moved to another city to study.
So you moved back with your parents?
Yes. Wasn't that easy because, when you experience more freedom.
And your father was starting to think, to doubt.
I was trying to apply what I discovered about myself and about my family as well in my family. But at one point, I realized that it's not fair. Just because you want to change, that you impose to other people a changement. My father didn't want to change. My mother didn't want to change.
But you wanted to change. You discovered change through philosophy.
At the beginning, I thought that it could be an opportunity for them as well to understand, to explore something. But you cannot oblige someone to make a thinking process if he doesn't want,
A contemplative, existentialist.
So after 1 year, I decided I've been working a bit as a swimming coach in that year. I earned a bit of money and then I went away, basically.
Where did you go?
In London.
Oh, you went to
I moved in London.
You moved to London.
The excuse was to learn English, but it was, for me, a goodbye from my home.
So you wanted to separate from your original...
And I used that money I earned to go there because my father didn't want to let me go there. So I went there and I've been working for 2 years in a shop. And then I decided to go back in Italy in order to teach.
Went back to Italy to teach?
Yes,
so
exactly.
Did you start teaching at maybe 28?
2013, basically 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
12 years ago. We're nearing the now.
Yeah.
It's not so far away. So you started teaching, but still then and you kept for your personal change the philosophy. When was your first contact with philosophical practice as a field, like in an official or more you discover it, not intuitive?
Just after the degree, so just after I finished university,
All right.
when I came back home, I started to Google.
Yes, so you started Googling?
Yeah, I wanted to use philosophy to make something practical out of it. So I found that there were many different philosophical practice associations in Italy, and I called a number. And I had a meeting with this girl that studied philosophy, was more expert in that field. And basically I entered an association called Phronesis. Phronesis, yes.
And they were doing philosophical practice.
Yeah.
How? What are some examples?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer how, because I think this was one problem of the association, that there wasn't one main style, but there were many samples of doing it. What it was in common, it was Achenbach. I don't know if you know a bit Achenbach. So that was a bit the model. But then there were different styles. And at one point, there was a big crisis in the association, and we risked to die, basically, as an association, because there were fights between different styles. For example, there was Stefano Zampieri that was fighting with Neri Pollastri. They were the two biggest philosophers in the association at that moment. And at one point, one left. And then 1 year after left the other.
It's like Hegel and Schopenhauer being associated.
Yes. But it was interesting for me because I had a lot of experience. I started to lead in workshop there.
Although there was no method, each one did what they wanted.
At the beginning, I was following more one of the method, was Stefano Zampieri.
And what characterized that method? Was it Socratic dialogue, or was it? Well, tell us something.
There was an attention for the narration of the client. So, in a way, the biography and the narration were included in the dialogue.
So, just like in your thesis, where you researched the narration of the philosopher, their personal life and their ideas, you saw this in a practical way, and like in psychoanalysis, interpreting the person's life to find out how they think.
Yeah, maybe that's why I choose that approach.
You are interested in personal narrations at that point.
Yeah. Yes. And I start to apply that method, and then I start the training to become a philosophical practitioner, because there you have to do a lot, like 120 hours of activities, different activities like workshop, leading workshop, giving consultation to someone, making report, and then there was a final discussion of your thesis about that.
Yeah, do you mean in the university or in the...
No, in the association.
In the association?
Yes.
Of your thesis, your new thesis, which would describe your style of practice.
Yeah, at least that show that I learn how to do philosophical practice.
Just like an examination to become certified. By
exactly. So I got to this certified.
Right, and they certified you?
Yes.
Even though the association was breaking.
Yes. Yes.
Right, and then did you continue like that further?
Yeah, I continued like that, and then I was growing up in the association. I was, for example, leading, because the association was a national association, but there were different places where a group of people met. So I was meeting in Venice, but for example, there were other people meeting in Milan, meeting in Florence, meeting in other cities in Italy. So I was leading the group of Venice, coordinating activities. So for example, every month we met there to discuss, was Sunday morning and afternoon, to do activities and to do exchange of our personal experience.
And the activities were just for the association members, or were they open to the audience?
No, just members.
Just members.
Yeah.
And how would you enter into contact with, citizens, people, to give them a sense of practical philosophy?
That was an issue for the association.
Yeah, they stayed more with themselves.
And that's, I think, is one reason why I left, I abandoned the association at one point, because I think that they were more discussing about philosophical practice or doing among them than actually make philosophical practice with people. Yeah, it was more political and theoretical than practical. So
Theoretical, practical philosophy.
theoretical political philosophy.
Theoretical, political.
At the same time, I had the opportunity to meet other international philosophical practitioners like Ranlav, I don't know if you know him, and Oscar Bonifier, for example. Yeah. So I started collaborate with Ranlav at one point for 2 years. I learned his new method that was called the companionship. Yeah, I don't know if you know about that. Is you start from a philosophical text, and then you start with the group who resonate each other through the text. It's a kind of prayer through that philosophical text.
I attended one.
Oh, you
workshop.
experienced one.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
He calls it deep philosophy.
That was the evolution of companionship.
Companionship.
And then deep philosophy.
Deep philosophy, where you meditate
Yes.
on a text, you come up with ideas from deep inside you.
Yeah. So I went to Berna, in Switzerland in 2016. But there was an international conference of philosophical practice. And so it was an opportunity to meet more international philosophical practitioners.
So I guess besides the association, this might be another professional highlight where you attend conferences, international conferences where people come and exchange the practice and demonstrate what they do.
Yes.
So 2016, you went there?
I went there as a student of Ranlav.
Yes.
But for me, it was more a way to discover different styles, or to see if there was something more interesting.
Did you discover something?
I met Oscar Bonifier.
Oscar Bonifier.
Yeah. And he invited me there to the summer seminar in France that would have been 1 month later.
And did you like the seminar?
The summer seminar?
The summer seminar?
I don't know if I liked it. Maybe yes, but it was more traumatic experience at the beginning.
For you?
Yeah.
Yes? How old were you then?
2016, I was like 30 years old.
30 years old, and you attend this intense philosophical practice seminar, which for you was traumatic.
Yes.
Why is philosophical practice traumatic?
Because I was used to think of myself as a, let's say, good thinker.
Oh, you thought you were...
I thought I was good
smart,
in thinking.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example, in my association, I was recognized as a good one. Yeah. But there, I felt like disabled.
You felt
I felt like I couldn't think.
You couldn't think. You found ways in which you couldn't think?
Yeah.
Was it hard to think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
And then I was like, okay, there is something I have to learn from that experience, even if it's been traumatic.
Wait, what was traumatic? That you find out that you can't think?
Yeah, that I had to change a bit the image of myself. I thought I was a good thinker while I was a bad thinker.
Why were you a bad thinker?
Because I wanted to affirm myself through the thinking. I wanted to prove that I was good.
So you just wanted to prove, but you couldn't prove?
Yeah, no. Because I was to focus on myself than on the process. In this kind of work, as you know, if you're to focus on yourself, you miss the process. So you cannot follow the process anymore.
You couldn't think together with others, couldn't think of problems, couldn't understand problems, because you were too stuck in your own mind.
Exactly, yeah.
Of the one who thinks he's smart.
Yes. In a way, I was used to think by myself, and the first experience there showed me that I couldn't think together with other people.
I see this in some philosophers who have academic formation, and they know how to quote Hegel and Plato and everyone else, but you try to dialogue with them on simple things, simple ideas, and they just get stuck.
Yeah, plus I start teaching, so when you teach, you're used to speak for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, so that was another reason why I wasn't used to share the thinking process together, maybe. And that was a powerful experience that made me think a lot about myself and to see my weak points.
In the Institute of Philosophical Practice, there were workshops led by Oscar Bonifier,
Yeah.
showed you the practical outside thinking which happens amongst participants in a workshop. So you find out that you can't really think. You recognize this in yourself in 2016.
At least with other people,
With other people. You still had some confidence in yourself that you could think a little.
Yeah, even because at the end of the seminar, Oscar proposed me a collaboration with him. But I was like, I'm not sure we are doing the same stuff because I'm doing something different in my association. So he proposed me to give a consultation to Leila with my style. So he proposed to have Leila as a judge to see if our styles were not so different and they could go together.
So a one-on-one dialogue in your methodology of Ran Lahav and others, test on one of Oscar's tutors.
Yeah, I was showing to Leila what I was used to do with philosophical practice.
Right. Exchanging practices.
Yeah. But then I think Oscar smelled that I wasn't a bit not willing to collaborate, not ready, probably. So he dropped the contact with me. And then I kept working in my association. And then I went back there in 2019 in the summer seminar. And there I think started more the collaboration with IPP. I started before already to work on it, but the real job I started to do from 2019.
So what did you find most appealing to you as methodology in the new school of IPP for you, new for you?
Yeah, I found that it was more transformative than what I was doing in my association. It was more openness to the other, for example, that in a way, in order to be more available to other people and to reason together, you have to give up with yourself. While in my association, there was more, okay, you ask me something, and then I make a little speech, a little lecture, I give you some advice, and then let's see what you think about it. It was more an exchange, a theoretical exchange. While in this practice, it's more a confrontation, it's more a challenge, it's more effective, the challenge. And I think there is more chance for transformation.
So, for example, I would let you say an idea, then I tell you my idea, and then you tell me your idea. This was the old, your association.
Yes.
While in the new school, you say an idea, and I question that idea.
Yes.
We find its limits, and then we find the limits of the limits. It's more back and forth.
It's more about the process. You work on the subject as well, but you work on the process as well. So there are both sides involved here.
Right. So
you address more the subjectivity in this approach.
So there's subject as content, no? Like ideas, content, ideas which you exchange. And then there's subjectivity, which is the person. And in the process, you see more the subjectivity of the person, not the content that they bring.
Yeah, but at the same time, you give the chance to the person to get out from his own subjectivity. While in the old method, I think that everybody was remain in his own subjectivity. So in a way, I saw in the new method the chance to step out from the Plato's cave, let's say. And I liked a lot that. And when I experienced that, I said, that's philosophy, I think. That's Socratic dialogue.
Getting out of yourself, of how you think, and having reason something between us, not in my head or not just in your head.
Let's say to get a higher level, beyond the subjectivity. Yeah. Even if you need the other subjectivity in order to get that higher level. The spider?
I think it's a spider. Because I saw him do this weird gesture with his arm. Yeah. So then, since 2019 up to now, what have you been doing as a philosophical practitioner? What and continue to do?
I started training with this approach, like with Leila, and then I start to lead workshop. And then I enter IPP as a tutor, and I start following people. And at the same time, I abandoned my older association. So after 9 years, I left.
Years. Well, there's another thing I want to ask you about. I know you teach. You teach in high school, and you teach philosophy and history. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell me if you apply some of your philosophical practice with your students in high school?
Yes, I do.
Tell me how.
For example, when I prepare the lessons, I use a lot of conceptualization. This let me memorize more information.
Well, memorize as way of teaching, but is there interaction with your
but there is a
students?
link between memorizing and interaction. Because if you go there, like I was used to do at the beginning with your schemes, your books,
your plan.
Your plan, you lose the contact with the class.
You lose contact.
Yeah, you don't see what's really going on in your class because you're more worried with yourself by looking at your papers, let's say. But if you have everything in mind, you are there. You can see if they are following, if they are sleeping, they have a hard time to understand something. So in this way, I'm more available to them. And plus, I challenge them, or I use the philosophical competencies I learn in the practice to help them understand why they don't understand something.
That's interesting. So you use this with the students. You make them look at their own minds and difficulties in understanding.
Yes.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. For example, sometimes I notice that they think they didn't understand why they disagree with something they understood.
What?
They think they didn't understand.
Yes.
But it's not about understanding, it's about disagreeing. Yeah.
Okay.
Or...
So they refuse to understand because they disagree.
Yes.
They refuse to say that they understood.
Or they think that in order to understand, you need to agree to something.
That's more... I remember this. This also happens in workshops.
Yes.
Often.
Yes.
People say they don't understand because they don't agree, actually. But as you said, you don't have to agree in order to understand.
Yes.
Yeah, like this.
Another good example, I think, is that I saw in many students, they have a hard time to learn and to study. And I discovered that there are existential fear or issue behind their difficulties. For example, they have a hard time choosing. So they cannot select information. They cannot build a hierarchy in their mind. And so they try to memorize everything. But if you don't put in a different levels information, it's quite impossible. So basically they don't learn because they are afraid to choose, because they're afraid to make mistakes. So in a way, you have to invite them to accept the freedom connected to the learning process.
The freedom connected to the learning process.
Yeah. For example, you can choose one idea that could be more important than others. Maybe someone else can give more importance to other ideas. And you have to accept that more things can be important. But at the same time, you have to make a choice. What's more important for you? And then you create an hierarchy.
Is that arbitrary, the choice of importance?
There is some subjectivity, like we have seen before in the workshop. But at the same time, there is some objective element. So since they think there is subjectivity, they think it's wrong, basically. But you have to make sure that they accept that there is a bit of subjectivity involved in the learning process. The important is that you make the effort to justify. It's the work we do with interpretation, by the way,
to justify.
To justify with objective elements what you prefer in your subjective dimension.
So in this learning process, making a hierarchy of ideas by choosing them and giving a fundamentation to why you chose an idea is an essential part of the process.
Yes, when they understand this, I saw some students switch. They became good students, for example.
They start learning better
they start enjoying.
Understanding.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there are often existential issues involved in the learning process, and the philosophical practice let me identify them and help students to overcome them somehow.
Right. So you approach your students also on an existential level, not just knowledge transfer and verification.
At least when I see that there is some issues.
Yeah. You're teaching them how to learn.
Basically,
in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
And in philosophical practice, you're teaching people how to think.
I think they go together.
Yeah.
Well,
great. Want to get some questions from people?
Yes? Sure.
It wasn't about political Italian issue. It was a political process inside the association. For example, every 2 years there was an election to elect the people who run the association, and since there were different styles, there were different parties inside the association, so there was a kind of competition. And at one point they want me to be a president of the association, but as Alex knows, I'm not interested in this kind of stuff. I prefer to do the job because I like philosophical practice. I don't like to have a political role inside the association because there isn't a lot to do, but I hate to do those kind of stuff, So I refused that, but I saw many people inside the association spend a lot of energy and effort and time more in those kind of issues than in the actual practice. That for me doesn't make sense. If you like philosophical practice, most of the time you should do it instead of speaking about that or focusing on how to organize the association. I know that you need an organization, but I'm not the right guy to do it. I know just, let's say, 2 organizations. One was that one. Then I work with Run Love as himself. He started to build something, but it was a real association. And then I enter in IPP, the organization where I belong now. And I prefer the organization here. Is much more focused on the real practice than all the other topics. So for me, it makes much more sense to belong to a practice that give more importance to the practice than other stuff. The chance to give up with my own subjectivity, For example, when I do a workshop like I have been doing this morning, I have to give up with myself. Otherwise, I could not do it, I would lose myself in the process at one point. So in a way to encounter the other, you have to kill yourself. Yes, exactly.
Giving up on yourself and losing yourself are 2 different things. Giving up, you do it willingly, and losing yourself is unwilling.
Yes. You learn how to give up here.
You learn how to give up, and what's the benefit of giving up?
You start thinking together with other people. You don't just think by yourself.
And that's that's what you do in a workshop. You don't think for the participants. You think together.
Plus, you have the chance to understand much better the other person because now you see the other person. Otherwise, you are always in front of you, yourself, your image, and you miss a lot of information. So basically, I understood how to see others, to dialogue with others, and how to understand others. No. I mean, I wouldn't know where to start from. No, maybe I like the idea, but then you have to accept your limits, So I think I needed to learn, Maybe once you learn and you are experienced, maybe I think you have the chance to develop something more personal, But I didn't reach that level yet.
You would have to start an association and the paperwork.
Yes.
About the image.
Maybe I have to find people that want to do it. Maybe I could do something like that.
people form a school around you.
Yeah, no, but I don't feel the need to do it. I'm happy like that because I do what I like. Yeah, I like doing the practice. If I have to start something new, I have more problems that I will lose time and energy to spend what I like. So for now I'm satisfied with what I'm doing.
I know. Teaching in a private school.
Okay, again, at the beginning I would say yes, but now, like it happened during the university, I see the benefit of that trauma that I had in that private school. Yeah, I think I grew up as a teacher. I learned how to teach in that wrong environment in a way. Yeah. Actually, I think I don't like to regret because why? When I regret, I feel impotent because I cannot change the past. So I prefer to feel potent, powerful, and focus more on what I can do. So maybe there are things that I regret, but now I cannot think about it. Maybe because I'm avoiding that powerless feeling. To finish, I think when you regret, you miss an opportunity to make it out something from that. Yes, I had, I would say, many problems, especially in the beginning, and especially when I tried to apply the practice to my method. Yeah, because I'm a bit extreme person when I experiment. And 1 year I decided just to do philosophical practice instead of teaching. Yeah, it was horrible. I had a lot of problems with the principal, with parents, with everybody, basically. So, but then every year I started to say, no, I don't want to abandon completely this because I see the potential. I have just to find, the balance or the right way to do it. Yeah, I think now I found it. Yeah. So I know how much to challenge now the student, when to stop it, or I develop different strategies in order to challenge the students in a more indirect way. Sometimes I prepare lessons and I put in a lesson a concept that I know that could speak to some of my students, instead of addressing directly them in a dialogue that could bring problem, in that institution. So I learn how to soften the practice or how to make it more smarter, let's say, and more efficient for the learning process. Yeah. I had a problem with the student and with some students at the beginning, but then when I developed these strategies, more and more students were interested in the practice, and they asked me information about that. In a school, I present a project about philosophical practice, so I was giving consultation basically to students. I just called philosophy dialogue, something like that, and most of the students enjoy it a lot, yeah. But at the same time, I had problem with teachers because they didn't understand why students like that so much, and at the same time, I think they have prejudice about what I was doing. I think they thought that I was manipulating the mind of the students or using psychological tricks. So they were prejudiced about it.
Corrupting the mind.
Corrupting the mind of youth.
Like Socrates.
Yes. So, but now I think what the students like the most about my way of teaching is exactly the capacity to include in the teaching my philosophical practice experience. Because they have the chance to know better themselves while they are learning. Yeah. But I think it's an important question. Let me provide an important distinction I see here. I'm interested more in the way they think.
Yeah.
Because I see many teachers, they show interest towards the student, but not toward their way of thinking. It's more empathy,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an empathic person on that level. I'm more intellectual empathy person. Yeah. So I think they are surprised because I can understand better than they understand themselves. But let's say I'm not really interested in their feelings, for example. Yeah. I'm more interested in their ideas. Yes. Okay, I would say that instead of suicide yourself, you can learn how to die in the Plato definition. So in a way, instead of suicide, you can think. That's what I learned. I think it's important.
We applaud that.
Go to suicide.